Hi everyone, today I want to show you how to crochet corner to corner moss stitch. It's a great project for when you're wanting something simple with just a one row repeat to work, and it works not just for smaller projects but you can also work it up into a blanket like I have done here. I've left written instructions on my blog if you want to replicate this blanket exactly, and in today's video I'm going to show you just how to work the corner to corner moss stitch part, and then in next week's video I'll show you how to work this edging, but you can feel free to work any edge that you like on this project. For this project I used 3 balls of Papatia Batik in shade 55440. I probably could have got away with 2 balls, but because I wanted to colour match the gradients I ended up chopping quite a lot of yarn out to get to the right starting point for where I needed to be. But 3 balls of that is plenty to get a really decent sized blanket, and then I just added a cream border on using stash yarn. So without further ado, grab your hook, grab your yarn, and let's get going. Corner to corner moss stitch consists of a couple of setup rows, and then it's a 1 row repeat for the increase. Then you have a 2 row repeat for the middle section if you're doing a rectangle, and then a 1 row repeat again when you are decreasing back down either into a square or into a rectangle. I'm going to show you how to make a rectangle, but feel free to just make squares if that's what you prefer. I would recommend going up 1 hook size from the hook recommended for your yarn. So this is a double knit yarn and it recommends a 4mm hook, so I'm going to use a 4.5mm hook, just because without going up a hook size your moss stitch can be quite dense and inflexible, so for a blanket you don't want that at all. To start, you want to make a slip knot and chain 3. Then into the 3rd chain from your hook, so the first chain that you worked, because this loop doesn't count, you want to work 1 single crochet, chain 3 and turn your work. Then into the chain 2 gap from the very beginning of our work in the previous row, you want to work single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, all into the same space. So single crochet, chain 1, single crochet back into that same space, and we're not working into the top of the chain, we're working into the chain space. Then you want to chain 3, turn your work, and you want to find the chain 1 gap between the 2 single crochets from the row below, and into that chain 1 gap you want to work a single crochet, chain 1, and into the chain 3 space from the row below you want to work a single crochet, chain 1 and another single crochet. That's what creates our increases. Then you want to chain 3 and turn your work, and this is our repeat row. Into the chain 1 gap between the 2 single crochets from the row below you want to work a single crochet. Make sure that you don't accidentally pick up between the 2nd single crochet, because that can sometimes happen. You want to make sure that you are going just into the chain 1 gap. Work a single crochet, chain 1, and then you work another single crochet into the next chain 1 gap, and you work those into every chain 1 gap along, no matter how big your work gets. Chain 1, and when you get to the end and you get to your chain 3 gap you want to work single crochet, chain 1, single crochet. So chain 3, turn your work, find the first chain 1 space, pop your hook in and work a single crochet, chain 1, skip the next single crochet, find the chain 1 gap and work a single crochet into it, chain 1, again find the gap, work into it, chain 1, and when you reach the end into the chain 3 turn from the row below you want to work a single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, and it's that easy. And the more rows you grow, you will get a lovely right angled triangle, and you can repeat that until your rectangle is as wide as you want your short edge of your rectangle to be. So in the case of my blanket, I repeated this row until the bottom edge of my blanket along this edge here, we don't measure the diagonal, we measure the straight edge, was 60 centimeters wide. So you can go away, carry on increasing until your project is as wide as you want your short edge to be, and then I'll show you what we do next. I've reached a point now where I'm pretty happy with how wide my rectangle is, so I'm going to show you that increase row one more time, and then I will show you how we set up for our middle section of our rectangle. So one last time, you want to chain 3 and turn your work, and then you want to skip the first single crochet and find the chain 1 space and pop a single crochet into that chain 1 space, chain 1 and work another single crochet into the chain 1 space after the next single crochet. So we are skipping our single crochets and covering them with a chain 1, and we are working a single crochet into all our chain 1 gaps. So you want to repeat that all the way along until you come to the last single crochet and only have that chain 3 gap from the turn of the row below. And then when you get to the end and you just have the chain 3 turn from the row below, into that space you want to work a single crochet, chain 1 and another single crochet all into that same space. So that is the only space along the row where you are working 2 single crochets alongside that chain, and that's what creates the increase. So the way we make a rectangle with corner to corner work is really quite simple. You want to carry on increasing at this side, but we don't want to increase this side anymore. With corner to corner moss stitch, we have one setup row that just makes this edge here slightly neater, and then we have a 2-row repeat which will carry on increasing on this side, but we'll make sure that this side no longer gets any wider. So this first end of the setup row is worked in exactly the same way as our increases. You want to chain 3 and you want to turn your work, and you want to work the same as your increase rows all the way along until you have 2 single crochets remaining. So you want to chain 1 single crochet all the way along. So once you get to 2 single crochets remaining, you still want to chain 1 and single crochet into that final chain 1 gap, chain 1, and into the chain 3 gap you want to work 2 single crochets with no chain between them, so just 2 single crochets. And then when you are working your decrease side, you can pop a stitch marker here if you need to remind yourself. You want to chain 2, so we are no longer chaining 3 at this end on our turn, so you chain 2 and turn. Then we skip the first 2 single crochets because there's no chain 1 gap between them. We treat these as together, and we find the first chain 1 gap after those 2 single crochets, and we work a single crochet into it. Then you want to work all the way back up. So this is the first row of our 2-row repeat for the middle section of our rectangle. So still working those single crochet chain 1s all the way up until you reach the end. And at the end of the row, because we still want to make this side taller, you're still going to work your increase of single crochet, chain 1, single crochet into the chain 3 space from the row below. Then because we're still increasing here, we are still chaining 3. Turn your work and work your single crochet, chain 1 all the way along until you have 2 single crochets left. So you can see we have 2 single crochets left. You want to chain 1 and work into the final chain 1 gap. Then you do not chain and you work 1 single crochet into the chain 2 turn from the row below. So you don't chain between the final 2 stitches. So you have 1 single crochet in the final chain 1 gap, miss the next single crochet, don't chain and work another single crochet into the chain 2 gap from the row below. So just to recap those 2 rows, On a decrease end, you chain 2 and turn your work. You skip the first 2 single crochets and you find the first chain 1 space from the row below, and you work your single crochet into it, and then you work your single crochet chain 1 combination all the way up your work until you reach the final chain 1 space. So I've worked the final single crochet into the final chain 1 space, and because I still want to increase at this end, I'm going to chain 1 and work single crochet chain 1 into that chain 3 gap from the row below. Then the second of our 2 repeat rows for this middle section, you want to chain 3, turn your work and work as normal all the way down until you have 2 single crochets remaining. So we've got 2 single crochets left and 1 chain 1 gap left. So you want to work your single crochet into that final chain 1 gap. Do not chain, and work a single crochet into the chain 2 turn from the row below. And what you want to do is repeat those 2 rows over and over until you reach a point when this end is long enough, and you want to start your decrease row for this end at the end of one of these rows. So you want to be at your thinner end so that you can work the setup row for your rectangle. The setup row for the decrease section of this end of your blanket is worked in a really similar way to the way we worked the setup row when we initially started decreasing. So the first thing that you want to do, because we are at a decrease end, or you should be, is you chain 2. Turn your work, find the first chain 1 space and work all the way along with your single crochet chain 1s until you have only the chain 3 space from the previous row left to work into. When you have finished your last chain 1 and you only have this chain 3 space to work into that space you want to work 2 single crochet with no chain in between them. And this next row is our decrease row, and this is what you will repeat until you have just 2 single crochet left in the previous row. You want to chain 2, turn your work, find the first chain 1 gap, which should involve missing 2 single crochet. Work your chain 1 single crochet all the way down until you have 1 chain 1 space remaining. So you should be working all the way down until you have a chain 1 space and your chain 2 turn left to work into. So you can see here that I have 1 chain 1 space left and 1 chain 2 turn, and I've worked my final single crochet chain 1. Into the next space you want to work a single crochet, and then don't chain, and work another single crochet into the chain 2 turn from below. And then you want to repeat that row all the way down until you only have 2 single crochet left in the previous row. So we are now working the same decrease row over and over. So you chain 2 on your turn, turn your work, skip the first 2 single crochet and find the first chain 1 gap, and work chain 1 single crochet all the way down until you have 1 chain 1 space left and your chain 2 turn from the row below. When you have 1 chain 1 space and the chain 2 turn left, you want to work a single crochet into the chain 1 space, don't chain, and work another single crochet into the chain 2 turn from the row below. And you want to repeat that row until you have just 2 single crochets in the previous row. You can see all we have left in this row is a chain 2 turn and 2 single crochets. And to finish off for our final row, we want to chain 1, turn our work, and into the chain 2 turn from the previous row you want to work just 1 single crochet. Then you can break your yarn and pull your tail through. And then you would sew in your ends and you have a perfectly rectangle moss stitch corner to corner project, and no matter how big you take this, it doesn't go wonky or twist. That's one of the main reasons why I made a full-size blanket, to show you and to test the pattern to make sure that it doesn't go wonky. And that's how you crochet corner to corner moss stitch. If you're wanting to replicate this blanket and add the same border that I have, then I'm going to show you how to make this in next week's tutorial. It's a super cute and easy peephole border that works on pretty much any project, but it works particularly well with this moss stitch blanket. I'll pop a link in the description as soon as it goes live, but in the meantime I really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll see you again for another one soon. Bye!